looked at differently.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of freedom that you enjoy on stage, even,
Mm-hmm.
can be affected by that. Where you live in your head. Did it freak you out?
I mean, I think it was like, it's incredibly shocking. I think like, it's a hard one because I feel like, so many. I don't want to kind of add another voice into a thing that I don't know. I mean, yeah, it was weird. It was, I think like as a to watch it was obviously like very uncomfortable, and I don't think it was very cool.
No, not at all.
I think like I think there's a level of you do something like publicly as a performer, where I think people feel like sometimes it's almost like they can't. I don't know. It's like I think there's a boundary that sometimes people cross because it's just a blurry line with what part of you is available to people and what part isn't available to you, and sometimes people feel like they can take parts of you that don't belong to them, and I think that's just it's kind of a part of it sometimes, but I think it doesn't mean it's a good part or a correct part,
Right. I thought it was interesting. I read you said somewhere that when you're on stage live, you channel comedians, that you think about these guys like Jim Carrey, you used as an example,
Mm.
who go up on stage and they're so free and they're having the best time ever. And as a singer, you kind of think about those guys and their attitude to performing. And so that's why I thought of you when I saw this with a stand-up comedian going up
Hmm.
there making a joke and then getting attacked. I just think it just fucks everybody's head up just a little bit. Anybody who has to go out there and do something live, um,
Yeah, I
it's
think
weird.
the Jim Carrey thing I heard kind of reference was I think what he was always so great at, and I think there's a lot of musicians who've done it as well, is the kind of second he comes out, it's like you put the audience at ease in a way of kind of saying like, you don't have to worry about me. Like this show is happening. It's a show that is for me because I enjoy doing it in a way. And if there's a moment that you're not enjoying it or something, I'm not going to get worried and start panicking and kind of begging you to enjoy it. It's kind of,
Well,
I think
that's
this.
really interesting. In other words, you kind of put an audience at ease and say, "Listen, I'm in control. I'm okay. You don't have to be nervous for me. I want you to be calm and just know that I know what I'm doing up here."
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so. I think it's definitely
Mm,
kind of the the goal for me. I mean, performing's my favorite thing to do, so it's kind of like I have so much fun doing it, and I feel like in those moments when it feels really good, I know is because I'm just having so much fun, and I feel like that energy just kind of continues throughout the room and affects the audience in that way. So I think for me, it's like, I guess trying to apply that a little bit to making music as well, of just not kind of presenting a show to people or an album to people and being like, is this okay? Do you like it? Please say you like it. If not, I can go back and change it. I think there's just, you look at people that I kind of grew up loving and stuff, and you look at people like David Bowie and Freddie Mercury and Prince and stuff like that, and it's like, bang, that's what it is. That is the show. You can come and see the show. I'm going to be having the best time, whether you like it or not. And I think there is, obviously you want people to like the music that you make, but I do think there
right.
is a large percentage of people who make something as an artist, whether you're a musician or a painter or you make movies or whatever it is, that has to not care about what people think about it. Otherwise, you're like jumping through too many hoops trying to make everyone like something, and that's just not possible.
Right, and then it destroys the art. If
Yeah,
you read everything on Instagram about anything about you, you would be completely paralyzed
right.
by trying to please those few people who sit there and criticize you. There's a bunch of questions I need to ask you. First of all, this song, Sign of the Times, which is one of your biggest hits, but it's fantastic, right? It's just a great song.
Thank you.
Everybody tries to sing it. You know, it's one of those anthems, really. But you said you got the idea for this song, and then you just explain the process to me, if you don't mind.
Hmm.
You started singing into your phone,
Yeah.
but you sang for 7 minutes. In other words,
Well,
what were you singing into that phone?
I think Into the Phone was just a lot of kind of mumbling. I think I have like the note of me working it out, and it's a lot of like, I started playing a couple of chords, and then I was playing different chords, and then kind of found those chords and started playing those, and then just kind of singing like mumbles over them. And then I just kind of started singing Stop You Crying, Sign of the Times, and then everything kind of went from there, really.
Wow.
But yeah, it was interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's crazy. You don't even know where it came from, right? You weren't doing anything in particular at that moment.
No,
when
I
you
think
started.
we were all having lunch. We made the first album in Jamaica, and we would just kind of eat lunch on the roof of the studio. And I'd just finished earlier, so I kind of went down and started like tinkering around and stuff. And I'd started playing a lot more. I think I was finally in the studio in a different way than I'd been in the past, and I think I was working with a bunch of very talented musicians, and I started noticing like, oh, they're so good because they can't like pass an instrument without sitting down and playing it and like practicing, even if it's 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. So I think at that time I was just trying to play more and kind of learn more. I feel like I've learned the most about music just through doing it in the studio. So yeah, I was just kind of trying to play as much as I could, really. And
So you
and then
don't
it
go
kind of
into the
started.
studio with everything fully formed. Some bands do that. Some
Hmm.
performers do that. In other words, they
Yeah.
work out every detail. They go in the studio, and the recording process is pretty quick.
Hmm.
You like living in that studio. You like
Yeah.
going down and tinkering.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like going in with ideas. I mean, there's a lot of different versions of stuff. I think that's what's so exciting for me, is that I don't necessarily have like one way of writing a song. So it's kind of, I guess the excitement comes from, it could kind of come from wherever, and I don't know that like, okay, if I'm going to sit down, I know that I'm going to write a song. And I kind of, I guess the best way I know to describe it, I've always found, is like, you can practice surfing, and sometimes like the right wave doesn't come, and sometimes the right wave comes and you haven't practiced writing enough. And then if you've practiced enough and the right wave comes, it kind of times up, and that's kind of the moment of magic where you feel like you can just write something.
So do you write every day?
No, I don't write every day, actually. I know a lot of people who like religiously write every day to like make sure they're doing it. I don't see a benefit in kind of like forcing myself to pretend that I'm being creative. I think if I don't want to be making something, or I don't feel good about what I'm making, there's no point like torturing myself over it. So I don't kind of force myself to do it. Sometimes I think I won't do it for a while, and then I just start doing it a lot. And so kind of like I'm a bit all over the place with it, really.
That the surfing analogy is probably the best explanation I've heard about how to write music or do anything well. You got to practice, 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 so that when the big wave comes, you
You're ready.
recognize it and you
You're
know
ready
what
to
to do
ride
with
it.
it. Yeah, and I guess all those years with your band, One Direction, all
Hmm.
that. I mean, that that kind of prepared you for the solo career. You know what I wanted to ask you? I was watching American Idol. Yeah, I still watch American Idol. I'm maybe the only guy left who does. But I was thinking about that whole thing, and I'm hung up on it because there was a girl on there this year who was really good. Young kid, maybe 16, 17. She had a great look, and she could sing. She dropped out of the whole competition halfway through.
Hmm.
And I know what happened. Record company looked at her and said, "Don't sign that shitty contract with American Idol. Come with us. You're really that good." Is the contract that you signed, when you did X Factor,
Yes.
it was horrible, right? It was a horrible contract.
I
And
mean, in the context of, relative to what, I think I was 16 and in school, so I was getting a record contract. So I had no experience of the industry of being a musician. So I think like there was no way I was ever gonna stand there and be like, I'm not sure about this contract. I might just have someone look over it. I'm like, yeah, sign me up, 100%.
did you ever say, like when your band took off and it was huge, did you ever say to these guys, guys, I know I signed this contract and I had a lawyer and I made my deal. But for God's sakes, we're bringing in so much money. The band is working. Do you think you could find your way to signing a fair contract now? Because I imagine you left a lot of money on the table with One Direction. True?
I think, I mean, I had a great time. So
Understood.
I think like a world where I look back and think about all the ways that contracts could have been different and, worked more in my favor and stuff is just not, it's just like not how I choose to live. I think it
Amazing.
was an experience that was, you know, the kind of most pivotal thing that happened in my life, obviously, and I'm incredibly grateful for the time, and I feel like for everything that you could maybe look back at and think of where a contract was unfair or this thing or that thing it was made up for in just like experience. I just learned so much, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of, it's not like I can complain. I'm very lucky, and I had a great time, and there's no way, it's kind of, it would be hard for me to look back and be like, I was wronged during that time. I
Yeah,
don't
but I'll
feel
tell
like
you
I
why they
was.
were stupid. It's short-sighted on their part because I think if you had been treated right when you went out on your solo career,
Mm.
you might have said, "You know what? I'm going to stay with this record company."
Well, I am with the same record company. I
Oh,
was,
did you? Oh,
yeah, we were with Columbia in America, and I'm still with Columbia now. So
yeah, but it's a whole different setup, right? I mean, in other words, Simon Cowell's not involved anymore. You didn't
he's not.
even,
No.
right? Exactly. That's my point, I guess,
Right.
because if he had been smart about it, that's the other thing. This idea, when you were on a TV show and he looked at you and said, "You should be part of a boy band.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the goods to be a solo artist." I don't believe that was true. I think it fit his need. He saw you, good looking guy, you know, and I'll put them together and it will make a big band out of them.
Mm.
And that could have been crushing to you. Thank God it wasn't, but it could have been crushing to you. I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You could have looked at it that way. I don't know.
I
It's
could
shitty.
have. I think I definitely didn't think of myself highly enough at that time to
Right.
think kind of as a musician. This is who I wasn't a musician really at the time, and I think in terms of me not being kind of good enough as a solo artist at the time, maybe I wasn't. I think I didn't have any experience in the industry. I think I learned about writing songs and what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do, and I learned so much. And I think I also got to learn that with a group of people that meant I didn't have to go through that whole thing by myself. And
Right.
you know, that is kind of